Apple's 24-inch iMac blew our minds when it came out a couple of years back with its super thin design that is only possible by putting the entire computer inside of the chin, and it hasn't really been getting any love from Apple for almost 2 years, but we just got a massive leak bomb from Mark Gurman, as you can see right here in his Power On newsletter that he just put out yesterday, and it looks like we are finally getting a new iMac this year. Yes, this year. I was not expecting that because I thought we'd have to wait on the M3 MacBook Air first, then about half a year later, iMac, but no. It's coming this year. So in this video, we're gonna go through all of the leaks and how things changed so quickly, including some details about the spring event and some changes to the 15-inch MacBook Air leaks. Now here we have the Bloomberg article from Mark, and out of nowhere, the iMac has apparently entered an advanced stage of development called Engineering Validation Testing, or EVT. So it is going to be coming with the same 24-inch screen size as the current model from 2 years ago, and apparently even the same colors. However, it is going to be more powerful with a new M2 series chip to replace the M1, which we know, of course, is going to happen. However, some of the internal components are going to be relocated and redesigned, and even the process for attaching the iMac stand is going to be different, probably more efficient. Now, we do have the actual code names of the iMacs as well. We have J433 and J434. And it's not expected to go into mass production for at least 3 months, which means it is not going to be shipping until the second half of the year at the earliest. So even here, he's still saying there is a chance it might get delayed until the spring of next year, which I think that's what's gonna happen, but we're gonna have to wait and see. Now, he did give us a bunch of info about other Macs, but I'll get into that in just a second because I've gotta talk about the iMac coming sooner than expected and why we thought it was not gonna be coming until later. Well, first of all, on August 5th from 2022, Mark Gurman gave us some details about a bunch of Macs, and it was missing from Apple's plans. Yes, the iMac with the M2 chip was missing, which was kind of weird, but it led us to believe that Apple was skipping the M2 chip design of the iMac, and likely because the M2 chip is a stopgap chip, and it wouldn't really make that big of a difference in terms of the actual experience. And last month, he basically said the same thing. The new iMac was not expected to launch until late 2023 at the earliest, but now he got a bunch of new details. Now, the reason I thought it would not come until spring of 2024 is because with the M1 version, the M1 MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro and the Mac Mini, they came out in November of 2020. Only about 6 months later, we got the 24-inch iMac. So Apple decided to delay it, likely to give more attention to the iMac by itself instead of jam-packing 4 Macs into the same November event. And that's why I thought spring 2024 makes sense, because I thought we'd have to wait until the fall to get the M3 MacBook Air and then that delay. And of course, there is a bunch of leaks and evidence to back up the claim of the M3 MacBook Air coming in the second half of 2023 with the 3nm chips, which perfectly falls in line because we are expecting the A17 Bionic chip for the iPhone to come with 3nm technology from TSMC, and that of course isn't happening until September, so it's only natural for the M3 chip built on 3nm to come after that A17 chip. But apparently Mark Gurman thinks that Apple is completely changing the way they do things, and he thinks we might actually get 3nm M3 chips before the iPhone A17 chip. So let's get into those other Mac details. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, Pulseway. Need access to all your systems while on the go? With Pulseway, the all-in-one IT monitoring and management platform, you can do just that. Access systems, remote in, run scripts, all of it from any device closest to you. Try it free today using the link below. Now getting back to the Mark Gurman article, this right here is crazy. Aside from the iMac, Apple is scheduled to launch about 3 new Macs between late spring and summer. Now that right there is crazy because we thought we're getting a March event with a 15-inch MacBook Air and a Mac Pro, which matches up to some of those Macs, but here he's saying no, we're not getting any of that until late spring, which is months from now. And even crazier, here's what he says. One of them is going to be the 15-inch MacBook Air codenamed J515, then the first Mac Pro with Apple Silicon, J180, and an update to the 13-inch MacBook Air, J513. What? I thought that was coming at the end of the year. What is it doing going between late spring and summer? That does not make sense. And that's mainly because the 13-inch MacBook Air already has the M2 chip. So if it comes out this summer, what is it supposed to get? The M3? Well, that's not supposed to be ready until the end of the year after the A17 chip. So the only way this makes sense is if Apple is literally getting the M3 chip done early and releasing it on these Macs before the A17 chip for the iPhone. That's the only thing that makes sense. I personally thought that the 15-inch MacBook Air would be on a mid-year cycle to where you have the 15-inch releasing in the spring by itself, no 13-inch, with the regular M2 chip, and then later this fall, we would just get the 13-inch M3, and then kind of in the spring times, we could be getting that 15-inch update. But no, Mark Gurman says they're coming at the same time, and he's saying it makes sense for them to come with the 3nm chip. And even crazier to me, he's saying that Apple has been clear it wants to put its Mac-grade processors on an annual upgrade cycle like the A-series chips in the iPhone. I personally thought it's a 1.5-year cycle for the M chips where they skip the occasional A chip, but he's saying annual upgrades. And wow, if it really comes this summer, then I guess he is right. So the big question is, are we actually getting a March event or at least a spring event? And if the 15-inch isn't coming, then what is? Because we did get some leaks saying that the 15-inch MacBook Air would be launching in the spring of 2023. And then we got another leak from Ross Young saying that the actual display production has begun and it's launching in April, which is not late spring, it's early spring, and that's from Ross Young. And then of course we have the Mac Pro leaks, which I'll get into in just a second, but look what just happened over the weekend. This is crazy. Sources have been saying that Apple is planning a product briefing next week, which is actually this week, for the iPhone 14 to launch in yellow. And the crazy thing is the leaks point to it happening on Tuesday, which is actually, for you guys watching this video, today. So by the time you watch this, they could have already released the yellow iPhone and these new iPhone 14 case colors, two of them right here, and a new purple and kind of orangey leather, and maybe even some Apple Watch bands. Those could be getting announced by press release. Now, that is very important because last year we had a March event, and during that event is when they revealed the new iPhone colors for the Pro and the regular model, both in green, alongside the new cases, and everything else were released at the event. So if we're getting press releases for those new colors coming this week or today, then what does that mean for the spring event? Why is Apple not holding those for the spring event if it's happening? That likely means that the spring event is canceled completely. And then that would make sense why we might not get a 15-inch MacBook Air until later, like Mark Gurman is saying. And that's what Sammy Fathi, previously at Mac Rumors, is saying. He doesn't think there's gonna be an Apple event this month with the reports of late spring and summer for the Macs and a new press release for these iPhone colors. So that is extremely disappointing. And now, of course, we have the last thing that could have been released at the spring event, which is the Mac Pro. And of course, the reason we thought it makes sense for coming at a spring event is because of the iOS 16.4 software leak from 9to5Mac, pointing at a new compute module, which only makes sense to go into a Mac Pro. And of course, we know that these mid-year huge iOS updates usually come alongside or after a spring event, which is why we thought the Mac Pro was coming. But we also have this leak from Ross Young, who said that Apple's rumored 27-inch display with mini LEDs has been delayed yet again, which means it's not coming for a couple of months, maybe not even until the summer. And my issue with this is that I believe it can only launch alongside the new Mac Pro. It can't get delayed and launched by itself. It has to be shown off at the same time. So what if at WWDC we're also getting the Mac Pro and the VR headset, everything, and we're not getting a spring event? And if all of that happens, I don't know, because it's just too much happening at one time. So I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. You guys let me know your thoughts on the new iMac coming down in the comment section below. Let me know when you think it's coming this year or in the springtime next year. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one. Check out one of those two right there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.